Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to my Game of the Year 2016 video, which I tried to make on the last day of 2016, but I didn't quite get to it. So this year, or actually last year, I didn't actually play many of the games that came out. In fact, I only played 4 of them, and 3 of them are on my Game of the Year list. The one that isn't is No Man's Sky, so I guess that's my worst Game of the Year. There are still more 2016 games that I'm going to play, but I don't want to do what I did in 2015 and wait forever to play those games and then make my Game of the Year video, because then I'm just not gonna even end up really making it, or making it when anyone cares. So these are my Games of the Year for 2016, but I'm probably still going to play more games that came out last year in this year, and maybe some of them would be good enough to be on this list, and they just aren't going to get the mention here, but I'll try to mention them at a later time. So let's just kick this thing off with my 3rd place Game of the Year.
Demonic presence.
Doom was a game that I wasn't really expecting to like that much, but once I started playing it, it just clicked with me right away. The fast-paced shooting is just a ton of fun, and I think what makes Doom really good is it focuses on that fast-paced shooting type of gameplay, and the story in Doom is almost not even present. Your character walks faster than characters do in most first-person shooters, and something that I really like that a lot of modern games don't do is you get to carry all of the guns in the game at once. You don't only have to choose 2, you get all of them, which is not realistic, which I guess is why a lot of modern games don't do that, but I think it's more fun, and I love games that do that. Also, Doom has great level design with finding the little secret things, and it also has a great variety of enemies. There's not as much of a variety as Bloodborne or something, but there is a nice group of them that all look different, and they each do something different in the gameplay, and it works really well when you combine that with also the like 7 or 8 different guns in the game. Because for me, one of the sort of downsides to the game is that the combat can get really repetitive, and I started playing this game on the hard difficulty, and I actually had to take it down to medium because I was just getting bored with how long the game was taking to play. So I turned it to medium and actually had a lot more fun with the game just because I got through it faster. This game has a lot of repetitive combat, but the combat is just so fun, and they tend to have a lot of different enemies and guns you can use that for me, it made it worth playing through to the end. And my runner-up for Game of the Year is Uncharted 4. You guys are probably as surprised as I am that this isn't number 1 on my list, but we'll get to that later. For now, let's just talk about how great Uncharted 4 is. Naughty Dog did something that not many developers do. They chose to end their series, and I think that they ended it in the best way they could have. Uncharted is probably my favorite gaming series of all time, just because of the quality of those games, never really dipping that much. And Uncharted 4 is, I think, the best game in the series. The second Uncharted game made a big leap over the first one in both the story pacing and the gameplay. The third Uncharted didn't do much of a leap over the second one at all, and I think Uncharted 4 is that next big leap over the past 3 games. Everything in Uncharted 4 to me is better than it was in the previous ones. The story is a lot more deep and emotional. I feel like I cared about what happened to the characters more, and the game actually made me worried that some of my favorite characters would die at points. Now, I'm not going to spoil whether or not they did, although probably most people watching this video have played the game. But I really like how the story concluded, and I think it was the best way to handle ending the story of Nathan Drake and his sort of family of other characters. I think that the gameplay was greatly improved. Shooting feels so much better than the first 3 games. The puzzles Oh my gosh, the puzzles. They actually make you think to solve them instead of looking at the answer in the book. And my favorite puzzle in the game was the one with the clock tower, where you have to rotate the pieces of paper. And the reason why it was my favorite one was because it was just the best puzzle. It made you think about how to solve it. And then, of course, there is the climbing, which I would say is a bigger portion of Uncharted 4 than previous games. And I think that the rope sliding and the little climbing pick, python thing actually added a lot to the climbing and just made it feel better and more complicated in a good way. Not too complicated for a game like Uncharted, but it added something else to make it more special than what it was in the first 3 games. So that's really all that I have to say about Uncharted 4. I think it was a fantastic game that just ended that series in a way that was basically perfect. Speaking of things that are basically perfect, my game of the year. Well, I just said it. Inside is basically perfect. I can't think of any real flaws that made my experience with this game worse. And what this game did give me is just so good. From the start of the game, you are never directly told anything, and that's what I love. They don't tell you what button is to jump. Like, you could technically pause the game and look at that, but I didn't. You figure out everything on your own in this puzzle game that has this really mysterious and creepy story. And because this game never directly tells you anything and just makes you figure things out, I think that made this game incredibly immersive. And it is a better example than Uncharted 4 is, I think, of the gameplay immersing you into the story and making you care about what's happening in it. Speaking of those puzzles, I really like how they were done. I think none of them were so hard that you ever got stuck on them. At least I never got stuck on them. But at the same time, they weren't too easy and they were really fun and satisfying to solve. This game is made by the makers of Limbo, which I liked overall, but one problem that I had with it is that once you get about halfway through that game, the puzzles start feeling really repetitive. And that's something that just doesn't happen in Inside. There's constantly new gameplay mechanics being introduced and variations of old ones that just make each puzzle feel unique. There was never any point in this game for me where I felt any sort of lack of interest in what was going on in the game, because that gameplay just sucks you in and was just great. And of course, the game's ending is incredible. I can't describe it any other way without giving away spoilers, other than it is incredible. And for me, it was such a good payoff to what the mystery was building up to. And even though it didn't answer every question, I think that's a good thing in this game, because it leaves me with being able to think of what was going on in the story and try to figure it out for myself, because this is a puzzle game after all. So, congratulations Playdead on Inside being my favorite game of 2016. Of course, like I mentioned in the start of this video, I might play more games that I might end up liking more than some of these. But for the 2016 games that I actually played in 2016, those 3 were my favorites. Thank you guys for watching this video. Tell me in the comments what your favorite games of this year were. Remasters don't count, but if you really want to mention remasters, go ahead. And one more thing, I recently got a new Patreon supporter whose name is Mo7 on Patreon. I haven't had any contact with this person yet, and I don't know what their YouTube username is or anything else about them. So, if you are Mo7, please tell me and contact me and message me back on Patreon. And that's all I have for this video, guys. Once again, thanks for watching and have a great day.